Your Cheatin' Heart, next on One Gospel. Okay, we're continuing our Sermon on the Mount series. This is from Matthew 5:27 through 32. Previously, Jesus had said in this sermon, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Torah teachers and Pharisees, by no means will you enter into the kingdom of the heavens. Now he's telling us what this looks like, and he's been doing it, and he's going to continue doing it. You have heard that it was said to the ancients, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And if your right eye causes you to stumble, pluck it out and cast it from you. For it is profitable for you that one of your members should be destroyed, and not that your whole body should be cast into Gehenna. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and cast it from you. For it is profitable to you that one of your members should be destroyed, and not that your whole body should be cast into Gehenna. It has been said that whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever shall divorce his wife, except for the matter of sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries her who was divorced commits adultery. So we're going to look at this. We're going to look at marriage, divorce, adultery. So we start off with him saying, you've heard that it was said to the ancients, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So the Torah forbids adultery in multiple places.
Exodus 20:14, thou shalt not commit adultery. Leviticus 18:20, moreover, thou shalt not lie carnally with thy neighbor's wife, to defile thyself with her. Deuteronomy 5:18, neither shalt thou commit adultery.
Okay, this prohibition is repeated by Jesus, Paul, James. And so, this is not some ancient Hebrew proscription that just went away magically. This is something that was considered to be binding by Christians. Torah defines it as, it defines adultery as lying with another man's wife. And its penalty was death for both the man and the woman. Additionally, they note that God judges it, that those who do this will not inherit the kingdom. And that's just like the exact same thing. Okay, it's not the exact same thing. So besides lying with another man's wife, it also included lying with a betrothed woman. So they treated a fiancé functionally the same as someone who is married. Now, Jesus expands on this definition pretty broadly. So he goes from the narrow definition of some other dude's wife and you hook up with her. He expands it to saying that just looking at a woman with lust is committing adultery in the heart. And that's actually, even though that is an expanded view of the definition of adultery, it's not a new idea because Torah specifically forbids coveting the wife of one's neighbor.
Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Neither shalt thou desire thy neighbor's wife, neither shalt thou covet thy neighbor's house, his field, or his manservant, or his maidservant, his ox or his ass or anything that is thy neighbor's.
So there will be no coveting of his ass, Holly. The Proverbs also warns against lust for an adulterous woman.
Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let take thee with her eyelids. For by means of a whorish woman a man is brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for the precious life. Can a man take fire in his bosom, and his clothes not be burned? Can one go upon the hot coals, and his feet not be burned? So he that goeth to his neighbor's wife, whosoever touches her, shall be not innocent. Men do not despise a thief if he steal to satisfy his soul when he is hungry. But if he be found, he shall restore sevenfold. He shall give all the substance of his house. But whoever committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. A wound and dishonor shall he get, and his reproach shall not be wiped away. For jealousy is the rage of a man. Therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance. He will not regard any ransom, neither will he rest content, though not giveth many gifts.
Jesus later explains that the heart is the source of all sin and true defilement.
What goes out of the mouth of the man come forth from his heart, and that defiles the man. For from within, out of the heart of a man, goes forth evil thoughts, adulteries, sexual immorality, murderers, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lewdness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness, and false testimony. All these are the evil things which come forth from within, and defile the man. But to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man.
So that's a list of things you ought not be doing, Holly.
Yep.
Just, pointing that out. All right. So Jesus further says, it has been said that whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever shall divorce his wife, except for the matter of sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries her who was divorced commits adultery. So this is a radical expansion of adultery. So when he said that it's been quoted that, you just give a woman a certificate of divorce, well, this wasn't actually from the Bible. So it's instead presumably an oral teaching that existed at the time, but it was probably at least partially based on Deuteronomy.
When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favour in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanliness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house.
Okay, so, Jesus said, well, it's just, you've heard that it's been said that if you want a divorce, just do it. Well, Deuteronomy says that if there's some uncleanness found in the wife, then he can write a bill of divorce. Now, Jesus says the one exception to this about the issue of remarriage after divorce is that except for the matter of sexual immorality. So Jesus' allowance for divorce in cases of sexual immorality could be related to Yahweh, the God of Israel, creator of the universe. He actually divorced Israel over spiritual adultery.
And I saw when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away, and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also.
So Jesus says that, you've heard this, but this is what I say. And what he had just said in the Sermon on the Mount is later expanded when he's in a debate with the Pharisees.
The Pharisees came to see him, testing him, and asked him, "Is it Torah complaint for a man to divorce his wife for every cause?" He answered to them, "What did Moses command you? Did you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female? And he said, for this cause a man will leave his father and his mother and cleave to his wife, and they the two will be one flesh. Therefore they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no man separate." They said to him, "Why then did Moses permit to write and command to give a certificate of divorce and to divorce her?" Jesus said to them, "Moses, for the hardness of your hearts, wrote you this command and permitted you to divorce your wives. But from the beginning of creation it was not so. God made them male and female. For this cause a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall cleave to his wife, and they the two shall be one flesh. So that they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore what God has joined together, let no man separate. And I say to you, whoever shall divorce his wife, except for sexual immorality, and shall marry another, commits adultery. Whoever marries her who is divorced commits adultery." And in the house his disciples asked him again concerning the same thing. And he said to them, "Whoever will divorce his wife and marry another commits adultery against her. And if a woman will divorce her husband and is married to another, she commits adultery."
So this expands it. It doesn't just, because in the Sermon on the Mount, you hear, okay, if the guy divorces the woman, and the woman gets remarried, then the woman is committing adultery, both her and the guy who's getting remarried. Here, it makes it very clear that if a woman divorces a man, it's the same thing applies. And if a man divorces a woman and he gets remarried, he's committing adultery against her. So it goes both ways in all directions. And the reason for that is because fundamentally what God has joined together, people are not supposed to separate. So the context of the persistence of the Torah is the setting for this teaching to be given later. So what I'm about to tell you is kind of a repeat, but he says it again.
"Whoever divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery, and whoever marries her who was divorced from a husband commits adultery."
Yeah, so the context of him repeating that teaching that he had said earlier is that the Torah is never going away, basically, that it's eternal. Jesus has now expanded the definition of adultery to, we're just listing them, marrying a divorced woman, and Paul notes that unless the first husband is dead, he expands it to coveting after another man's wife, marrying a second woman after divorcing your first wife, unless the divorce is for sexual immorality. And so why would Jesus say this last example is adultery?
"Yet ye say, wherefore, because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom thou hast dealt treacherously. Yet is she thy companion, and the wife of thy covenant, and did not he make one? Yet had he the residue of the Spirit, and therefore one, that he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of your youth. For the Lord the God of Israel saith that he hateth putting away, for one covereth violence with his garment, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore take heed to your spirit, that ye deal not treacherously."
So the line where it says that God hates divorce, in the King James they call it putting away in that verse, but it's the same thing. So they're saying God hates divorce, but the context of him hating divorce is somebody that divorces the wife of his youth, probably because she's getting older and he's, trading her in for a younger model. And so Jesus is taking that and explicitly saying, yeah, he's committing adultery against her by doing that. So Paul reinforces this general concept of not divorcing and in the case of divorce, to stay unmarried, saying that it's a command of the Lord.
And unto the married I command, yet not I, but the Lord, let not the wife depart from her husband. But if she depart, let her remain unmarried, or be reconciled to her husband. And let not the husband put away his wife. But to the rest speak I, not the Lord. If any brother hath a wife that believeth not, and she be pleased to dwell with him, let him not put her away. And the woman which has a husband that believeth not, and if he be pleased to dwell with her, do not leave him. For the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife, and the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. But if the unbelieving depart, let him depart. A brother or sister is not under bondage in such cases, but God hath called us to peace.
Paul says that is he, and not the Lord, that says that a Christian should not divorce an unbelieving spouse if the spouse wishes to stay married. It is possible he is thinking of the command of Jews to divorce their non-Jewish wives in Ezra when he says that.
And Ezra the priest stood up and said unto them, Ye have transgressed, and have taken strange wives, to increase the trespass of Israel. Now therefore make confession unto the Lord God of your fathers, and do his pleasure, and separate yourselves from the people of the land and from the strange wives.
When Jesus says, what God has joined together, let no man separate, leaves open the possibility that marriages that should have never happened, according to God's Torah, can be dissolved. It doesn't say in Ezra, actually, that it just kind of says this is what happened, but it was a command of the priest, and they didn't really act like it was wrong that they divorced their wives. And this including, the marriages that had children. His allowance for sexual morality in Matthew, but not in Mark, could be explained through this lens, because sexual immorality could include incest. So a lot of people assume, oh, well, I can get a divorce and get remarried if she cheats on me or he cheats on me or whatever. Because, the Bible says, sexual immorality. Well, the word for adultery and the word for sexual immorality are different words. And, I'm not really going to argue with someone taking that line. That's fine. But they are different words. And sexual immorality, though, can mean a lot of things. And so there are people that shouldn't get married because of close familial relations. And, if they convert and then they find out that they shouldn't have been married in the first place, just like the people in Ezra's time, when they find out after the marriage happened that they shouldn't have gotten married in the first place, it is possible that actually they should be divorced. Possibly. So what Jesus says about marriage is compelling. I mean, he basically told the Pharisees that your teaching that you can get divorced for any reason couldn't be more wrong. And his expansion of adultery, although largely based on the Hebrew Bible, it really put it together in a way that had not been put together at that time. Yet, even though largely what he said about marriage, that it shouldn't be broken up, he didn't say overtly that divorce is always wrong. And again, what he didn't say is interesting, because he basically said that the sin of adultery happens in remarriage. And the only time when the sin of remarriage is not considered to be adultery is in the case of sexual immorality. But he did not actually say that divorce is by itself a sin with a penalty, right? Because adultery had a penalty. We saw that Old Testament, New Testament. It had a penalty, God's judgment, not inheriting. People who practice adultery do not inherit the kingdom. But nowhere does it actually say that there's a penalty for divorce. And that's probably because, God has mercy on people. He extends grace to people. Even though marriage was meant in a perfect situation to be forever, it clearly isn't always going to be a perfect situation. And God extends grace to those people, at least looking at what Jesus said. Now, most American Christians can't deal with the remarriage issue. They will have 1,000 reasons to say that the Bible tells them it's okay, or they'll just say, hey, that was for then, not for now, blah, blah, blah. God wants me to be happy. Listen, dude, I'm not getting in the way of you getting remarried. Really not. At all. Just, I'm just kind of saying what this guy said. Looking at Holly smile at me right now. But it's just, what he says is interesting, but what he doesn't say is interesting. And, because there was a long period in American Christianity where people were ostracized for divorce. And I don't think that's actually from the Bible at all. God himself divorced Israel. Now, in the book of Romans, Paul points out that you can get married again if your first husband died. So, when God divorced Israel, there laid open a possibility for Israel to be restored, to be married once more, if somebody died. But that would have to be God himself. That's quite a story, Holly. Have you ever heard a story about, someone who claimed to be God dying for the restoration of people?
Yep.
Yeah, that's this guy. That's this guy. So most of the Christian world doesn't know what to do with any of this. And so if you're like, dude, I don't want to deal with this, I would say just, tuck it away in your heart. And next time, I think we're going to have a different format. What do you think, Holly? New format? Time to reshuffle the deck?
I'm game.
All right. See you guys later.